Welcome to Love, Loss, and Other Things. This is Alicia, and today's episode is called How I Survived My Wake Up Call. This is a different episode, something that if you haven't followed me, you would not know that happened. But it was a scary time in my life, and but I made it through, and I made it to the other side, and we're getting better every day. So I'm going to share with you how everything went down. So after my dad passed in October, we had to do so much stuff. We had to clean out his house, which was like 30 some years of stuff, right? It was a lot. It was a lot on me physically and mentally. I was in quite a bit of a depression then, still am now, but it was really, really bad then. And what happened is I wasn't taking care of myself. Not a lot of us weren't. We were kind of focused on other things, and I wasn't really taking care of myself the way I should have been. I ended up getting sick with a cold, and that cold lasted a long time. Cut to maybe a week before, no, it was a couple days after Christmas, and I really, really started to get sick. So I went into the emergency department, and I was told that everything looked clear, that it was just a cold and that it would pass on its own. So that was fine. A couple days later, my husband was in. They had thought there was like all these different problems, but he ended up being fine as well. Said it was a cold to come back. I went in, it was January 1st. So New Year's Day. New Year's Eve, my husband and I sat at home, both of us sick, and we had a Subway sub, and that was what we did. We literally did nothing. We went to bed before the clock struck midnight, and we were out. So I got up that morning, and I could hardly walk. I was dizzy. It was just awful. And I decided in the afternoon to just head down to Emerge. No matter what happened the couple days before, I needed to go get checked out again. I knew something was wrong. So when I got to Emerge, I was waiting and waiting and waiting. My husband was working that day, so he didn't come with me, but a friend came with me. She had to leave to go to a family gathering because it was New Year's Day, and I waited around. So I finally got into the room after like 4 or 5 hours of waiting. I got into a room, and the doctor, basically they didn't know what was going on. Everything kind of seemed fine, but I was really having trouble breathing. So they gave me the puffers. So they kept saying like, do 10 puffs. Your heart's going to race a little bit. It's going to make you shaky, but do these 10 puffs and it should clear you up. He came back in after like say a half an hour of me doing the 10 puffs. Nothing had changed. He did another 10 puffs, I believe. Still nothing changed. So they said, we're going to have to get you checked out. He was looking at the x-ray from the few days ago when I had been there before, and the x-ray, there was nothing. So they stuck me in this little tiny room, and they were kind of watching me. My friend came back, and she was like, yeah, you're like really sick. And I said, I know. I'm not feeling good at all. Like, I'm just exhausted. My entire body at that point ached, and I was finding it hard to breathe. So the doctor came in after a little bit because he was leaving. He was going off his shift. And he was like, I don't understand why nothing is clearing this up. Why don't we do an x-ray? We're going to get you an x-ray, and then we'll see what's going on then. So I was like, okay. So the new doctor came on. They sent me down for an x-ray. I got the x-ray, and I was sitting outside in a wheelchair. And this older doctor who was so nice and so sweet, and he just came up to me and he put his arm on my hand on my shoulder, and he said, you are so sick, sweetie. He said, you are going to be being admitted, and we're going to get this cleared up, but you're very sick right now, and you have to come into trauma. So I started to panic a little bit, like trauma. My husband was done of work by this point, and my friend was with me, so he wasn't coming down right away. He didn't really know what was going on. So he went home to go get something for supper, and then she messaged him and said, like, I think you need to come down now. She's going into trauma. I was scared. They took me into trauma. They started pumping me with all of these meds. I was terrified. I didn't know what was going on. They had me hooked up to so many machines. I have pictures of it, and it was insane. I've never ever like had this many machines hooked up to me. I had wires all coming out of me. I actually have a scar on my wrist. You can see it right there. They had to do one of those lines that they put in, and it like goes right to your heart, and it tells them your blood pressure constantly, like all the time. My friend, like I said, my friend Mary was there. My husband showed up. I had oxygen in, like I couldn't breathe. I had the oxygen in. And again, they were starting to give me IV meds. I had like, I'm not even sure, but I think I had 4 or 3 intravenous, 3 IVs in. I had like 3 or 4 machines all around me. I was constantly hooked up to a heart monitor, and they were just like, it was insane. I was in trauma, and I was scared. Like, I just didn't know what to do. I know I've said that before. I was scared, but I was terrified. I really had no clue where this was going, what was happening to me. I thought I was just in there with a cold, and all of a sudden I'm in trauma. So they tried to give me something to eat. I couldn't eat anything. My mouth was so dry. I couldn't even really drink anything, because then they didn't know what was going on. So they kind of took everything away from me. I wasn't allowed to have anything. My friend Mary actually heard them say something like that I was going septic, and they were really watching it, because if these certain levels, I am no medical professional, so I have no clue. And I was so out of it that night that I don't know. Mary was taking pictures, but they said something like, if my levels go below a certain number, that it means that I'm going septic, right? So they gave me this number. They told me this number, and I watched it on the machine. I could not sleep. I sent my husband and Mary home, because I was like, just go home, right? They stayed for a while, but I was like, just go home, get some rest, and come back in the morning. So I was laying in the hospital bed, and I wasn't even really laying. I was sitting up because it was so uncomfortable. I couldn't put any pressure on my chest at all. If I laid back at all, I was sick. I couldn't breathe. So I had everything hooked up to me. The doctor came in, and he basically told me that one of my lungs, my entire lung was filled, had pneumonia in it. And the other one wasn't like great. So I had went from within 24 hours having nothing wrong with my lungs to having one whole lung filled with pneumonia. So they had me sitting up, and I just really didn't even know what to do. I was really out of it. They were giving me so much medication. They had, like I said, tons of IVs going in and out. I've never seen that many in my life in someone. And they had like I said, they had to give me that, I don't even know what it's called, but whatever. The thing they had to put that went right to my heart. So they had put me in a room, and they closed it all up, because it was trauma. So people were coming in too as well. Like, people were coming in ambulances. So they kind of had me off to the side. They ended up having to put a catheter in, which was not fun. And being a bigger person, it was definitely not fun. It was not easy, because I couldn't lay down. So I couldn't lay back, or I wouldn't be able to breathe. So it was very hard for them to try to get the catheter in. And it was my first time ever having a catheter. I was terrified. It actually wasn't that bad. Once it's in, you're good. Okay, guys? So if you ever have to experience that, I will just let you know it's not as bad. So I got that, and I was up the entire night. I literally sat in bed and prayed, cried, watched the monitor the whole time. I was so terrified that number was going to go under. I don't even remember what the number it was supposed to stay above, but I just know that I was keeping it above it. And I seriously would see it get close to it, and I have no clue what I did with my body, but I would just watch it, and I would try to fight to make sure that number would go up more, and it would go up. So I don't know what my body was doing. I don't know, I've never had to fight for something like that. It was just so confusing and so much. So I did finally, I think, fell asleep for a little bit, and the doctor came in, and this is when he really scared me. He said, so there's no bed right now, but we're moving you into the ICU. So, and I was like, the ICU. The ICU is like where people go to die in my mind. Like that's where people go that were in like horrible crashes or like super crazy sick. Like, why am I going to the ICU? This is insane. Like, I'm not going, like, why would I go to the ICU? Even thinking about it scares me because it was very traumatic. If you've ever had to go or hear that you're going to the ICU, you know that you're in trouble. Like there's something wrong big time, right? So I messaged my husband and I'm like, they're talking about putting me in the ICU. And he was like, what? And I said, I don't know. They said in the morning, once there's a bed, they're going to move me to the ICU. So please, like, get here in the morning when you get up. Please, like, come down. So him and Mary both came down and they were there with me. And I was sitting in a bed with the catheter and like just a robot, like a little shirt, Johnny shirt on. And I was fine. Like I was talking, but I was still really out of it. And then they came to get me to take me to the ICU. So like no one could come with me. So they took me to the ICU. I really, to be 100%, I don't really remember it all. All I know is it was like a room by myself and there were some chairs and they had to move so many machines with me because I was still hooked up to so much and I was getting so many different IV antibiotics that it was just like insane. Like I was constantly getting stuff and I wasn't able to eat or anything like that. And I remember they had like a potty in the room for me to go to the bathroom because I had the catheter in, but you know, you got to do other things sometimes. So we are human. The ICU experience was terrifying. Very scary. I was in and out of it a lot. I slept a lot. I would wake up and just not even know like what was going on. If you were following me on Instagram then, I did stories because I was trying to let people know that I was okay and I wanted to let like the community on Instagram know that I was okay. And I did a whole story and I was typing it and I was talking. It made absolutely no sense. I would call Adam, like my husband. I would call Mary, my best friend, and I would call my brother. And I would like talk to them and they would call each other or text each other being like, what did you get today? Is she okay? Like what's going on? When they weren't there because people were there constant with me pretty much. It was so weird not to be able to take care of yourself. And anytime I had to go to the bathroom, it was embarrassing. I had to call someone and like there was this little guy there. He was just the sweetest. I swear the nurses on that unit are incredible and like gifts sent from God. I swear. They just made me feel so okay and that I wasn't bothering them because it was so embarrassing. I'm laying there with a catheter in and I'm laying there with like just a little Johnny shirt. I have no clue. My hair's a mess. I'm dirty. And you just feel like you don't even know. And you're out of it too. Like you don't even know what's going on. So it was just such a horrible, horrible experience. And you don't know, like the doctor's just coming in. They're not really talking as much to you because you're kind of out of it. And I just didn't know. Like I ended up being in the ICU for 4 days altogether. So I will share a funny moment though, because I was so out of it. There's this scary story, the Baba Ganoush or something. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a movie and he wears like a little black hat. And I was laying in bed and it was just like those blinds that you can like the Venetian blinds, you can open them a little bit and close them. And they were just opened a little bit for the nurses to be able to see me, make sure I was okay. And I was laying in the bed and there was this like filing cabinet with shelves behind them. And I kept saying it was like that guy, the Baba Ganoush guy or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's like coming, like he's right outside my room. And everyone was like, okay. So here I was like trying to get pictures of it. I was drawing on the pictures like, do you not see this? Or it looks like the guy from the movie Saw. It was funny. Like they were all laughing at me, but I was scared. I was like, he looks like he's wearing a kit bag. He's wearing a kit bag. Like it was so weird, you guys. It's so weird to feel like, and you don't even remember this stuff, but it's so strange. So when I was in the ICU, they did a lot of testing on me. I actually spent my birthday in the ICU. January 2nd was my birthday, so I was admitted to the ICU on my birthday. And my husband brought me in like a little piece of cake, and they were like, you can have a couple bites of it kind of thing, but I didn't even want anything. I was allowed to have like beef broth and stuff like that. So they brought that in and I had a little bit of that. But at that point, I was so messed up. I did not want to have anything. I didn't care about cake. I was sad that it was my birthday and I was missing it. That was the only thing. So I was like, I turned 44 in the ICU. How wonderful is that? Anyways, we had like, I had a bite of cake and my husband just took it home. And for 4 days, basically, I was just out of it, completely out of it. I looked horrible. I was swollen. I was getting so much IV antibiotics into me. It was insane. My body was just, I slept all the time. My body was like shaky all the time too, but they said that my body was like fighting to live kind of thing. That's why my body was so off, because I was fighting, and I don't know what that feels like. I've never had to like fight for my life, and I don't even realize that I was fighting for my life. Like, I don't even realize that it was such a big deal. I literally thought I was going in for a really bad cold, and that like maybe like slight pneumonia, and I might be kept overnight or given some like good antibiotics. That was literally all I thought. So during those 4 days, they did, like I said, a lot of testing on me. I was really out of it and really weird feeling. It's so hard to explain, and I'm going to explain it, but you're going to think I'm crazy. Like, it was very weird. It was almost like outer body type experiences, like not I'm seeing the light or anything like that, but it was very weird. I felt like my dad's presence a lot, which was really strange. They took me down to get some x-rays and things like that of my chest, because they wanted to keep seeing the pneumonia. So they wanted to keep checking it. So I was having a lot of x-rays. And the x-ray department is right next to the cancer center. And I swear, this is so weird. Like, it makes me want to cry, but I was sitting there in a wheelchair. I had just gotten out of the x-ray, and I was sitting in the chair. And the whole time I was there, I was really upset, because I thought my dad would be so worried about me right now. Like, he would be at the ICU 24/7 with me. He wouldn't have left my side. He'd be so worried and so upset. And I just thought, he's not here. But I knew that he was with me. And I know he got me through that, him and my mom. So I was sitting in a chair, and it was so weird, and I knew the cancer treatment center was like right behind me. And I don't know why, but I just felt his presence so strong behind me. Like, he was like pushing my chair almost. And it was so strange, because I just felt this like feeling of him there. I've never felt anything like that in my entire life, and I've never felt anything like that again. But I really felt like he was there, like watching over me. And a lady came up to me and was like, "Oh, are you okay, dear?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine." And but it was just so weird. It was almost like my chair was being pushed. Like, I'm not making this up. It could have been like the craziness of the meds and the ICU and the stress and all of that stuff together. But if you truly believe in things like that, it was something that I had never experienced. And like I said, I've never experienced again before. It was just then, and then the lady came and she took me back to my room. So now, after the 4 days, I was so excited, and they said, we can take the oxygen off. I had so much oxygen in me. I had the oxygen that was almost like, a CPAP machine, like that much oxygen. It wasn't like like the little regular, like little one up your nose. Like, this was it was a big thing. And they took that off me, and I could just have the regular one. And that was a really good sign. So I was starting to be able to breathe more on my own, and I didn't need that. And it was just like such a blessing, and I was so excited. And they were like, you're going to be able to leave the ICU and we're going to send you to, it was like a heart unit, because that's where there was a bed. So I went in there, and well, the thing is, they needed to watch me 24/7. And this location had nurses on that were watching you 24/7. So you were hooked up to a monitor, and it was with them, so they could see you. If they just put me in a random unit, it wouldn't have been the same. They wouldn't have been able to watch all my vitals all the time. So they put me in this unit. There was like a lady next to me that had just gotten a pacemaker. I had another person. I ended up being in the hospital for 13 days fully. And so I basically spent 9 days in this unit. And the reason why is because of health reasons too. So usually the pneumonia was like going away. I was doing really well overall. The IVs were coming off me. I was just doing really good. And I was laying there, and my ankles were so swollen. Like, you couldn't even tell I had ankles. They were so bad, and they were so uncomfortable. And the doctors and nurses did not like that at all. So they would come in and like check them and feel them. And my blood pressure was going up, and my diabetes was bad. And they were like, this is when everything that I have been trying to avoid my whole life, like diabetes, high blood pressure, all of that stuff, came to a head. So I'm just going to say it right now. If you're avoiding any of this stuff, please stop. Stop avoiding stop avoiding the necessary things that we need to do to take care of ourselves, because it will come back, and it will come back with a vengeance. And you don't know if it's going to be okay when it comes back, right? I had been avoiding diabetes my entire life. It's okay. I can have a piece of cake. It's fine. I'm on pills. It's fine. It's fine. Well, it wasn't fine. They started me on insulin, which I had never been on. I only was on nighttime insulin. So they started me on insulin with my breakfast, lunch, and supper every day. And nighttime insulin as well. I did not want to do that. I was not happy with it, but you know, who am I to say? Like, I'm not a doctor. So, I started doing that, but they would do it. They would figure it out for me, let me know how much insulin I needed. They would do it. So that was fine. Then, my blood pressure was high. So I was taking my blood pressure meds like normal, but it still wasn't coming down. So after they had done everything, like, I was completely healing, right? Like, the IV was off me. The IVs were off me. Everything was basically off me, the oxygen, everything like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get to go home. Like, I had been here, say, for 9 days at this point, and I was so excited. All I wanted to do was get home, be in my own bed, see my cats and my husband, and just like relax, because it had been the worst year of my life, right? So I just wanted to go home. So I couldn't. Every morning the doctor would come in and she would see my blood pressure, and she would say, no, we're not letting you go until your blood pressure is under control, because we're not sending you home. And every morning she would say the same thing. And they were upping my meds. They were giving me more meds, right? And I was doing so good, you guys. This was my wake-up call. I was doing so good. I wasn't getting people to bring in food. Years ago, if I was in the hospital, I would have been like, bring me food, bring me takeout, bring me anything you can. No, I ate the 3 meals there a day. There was one time I went down to the cafeteria and had a meal, and there was another time that someone brought me in a salad from Wendy's. Like, I did so good. I was drinking tons of water, even though they were watching all of my fluids that were coming out. I had to track how many fluids I had in and how much fluids I had out. Like, I had to pee into a measuring thing, and I had to let them know. So that wasn't fun either. But they needed to know, because of the fluid in my ankles, it was so dangerous, and they were so big. Okay. So my blood pressure, let's talk about that. So my husband was working, and I was so hoping to go home, and I was getting so depressed every day that they would come in and tell me no. I was getting sadder and sadder because I was like, I don't know what else to do. I'm doing everything I can. I'm not eating bad food. Like, I'm doing everything I can. And yes, I know, bad food, it doesn't have morals. But I mean, like, I wasn't getting takeout. I wasn't eating unhealthy foods. I was eating the foods that they were giving me, which were completely, like, healthy, like, crappy meals. Like, there was nothing flavorful or delicious with most of these meals. Some of them were like, that's pretty good. A lot of them were not, right? But that's the basics because I am a diabetic. So I'm on the diabetic, low salt diet, right? On no sugars, all that stuff. So I go and she comes in again and she's like, checks my blood pressure and it is like 210 over something. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's really high. And I was like feeling lightheaded. So she said, we have to call the doctor. So she put a cuff on my arm. I didn't have to have the cuff on at all. She put the cuff on my arm. They laid the bed down and I was laying. And this is my moment. That was my wake up call. Okay. My friend was sitting next to me on the bed. I was laying there and they put my bed down flat and I had the monitor on and it was like the blood pressure monitor on and it was checking every once in a while. And I was laying there. And all I wanted to do was go home. And I just started to cry. And I cried. And I cried. And I looked at my friend. And I said, this is why we need to take care of our health. And she said, I know. And I said, I am laying in a hospital bed right now with monitors on me. Because my blood pressure won't go down because I have let myself get this far. I have let myself fall so deep on an unhealthy area that I cannot get out of right now. And this is not where I want to be. All I want to do is get home and my blood pressure is not allowing me to and there's nothing I can do about it. This is why I need to smarten up. And I just laid there and I cried. Which wasn't good for my blood pressure, but anyways, it did start to go down a bit. And they started to put those nitro patches on me, which I was like, oh my gosh, my mom had those. Like, my mom had heart attacks, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, it was so scary. And I didn't know what to do. It was so scary. And I knew in that moment that I had to get my blood pressure regulated. I knew it. I just knew it. I just knew I had to put myself first and stop avoiding these health issues that I had just because I wanted to avoid them. I didn't want to face them. And I knew that I needed to face them or I wasn't going to be leaving this hospital or I was going to be right back in it. The doctor continued monitoring me and they gave me prescriptions to lower it. It did start to lower, but my meds that I was on regularly were upped. I finally was discharged. I think it was January 13th. So I was in there for basically 14 days. And I got discharged. I went home with tons of new meds. And now I was full-time insulin dependent. I was so excited to get home, but I was so stressed. I came home and I laid in bed and I cried. And I know I cry a lot, but I just bawled and I just laid there and bawled. And I said, this is not what I want. I don't want to be insulin dependent. I don't want to be on all these extra medications. This is not what I want. But sometimes we can't always have what we want, right? And life is not perfect. Life is going to knock us down a heck of a lot of times. But at the end of the day, only we can change that. We are the only ones that can change it. Nobody else can change my blood pressure. Nobody else can change the fact that I'm on insulin. The only one that can change it is me, okay? The only one that can change your problems, your health problems, is you, right? That's what we're working towards. My health journey right now is not about a number on the scale. Right now, it is about getting me healthy. I am focusing on losing weight, 100%, right? But I'm also focusing on trying to reverse my diabetes as much as I can, or get off some insulin, get off some meds. Same with my blood pressure. I came home and I was drinking water like a maniac. Okay, so we're getting out of the hospital. Blood pressure is still higher, but it's not as bad. I have a blood pressure machine next to my bed. I'm checking my blood pressure 100 times a day. If you're anything like me, you obsess about that stuff, and I'm checking it over and over again. So I'm checking my blood pressure constantly, which is probably not helping at all. I'm checking my sugars constantly. I was just Actually, no, sorry. I wasn't checking my sugars constantly. That's what the problem. So I was focusing on my blood pressure, and I wasn't really checking my sugars. I wasn't really paying too much attention on it because I hadn't been given the full insulin yet. So I wasn't, like, when I left the hospital, I was going to be fully dependent on insulin. But I had to go get the prescriptions, and I had to go see a nurse on how to, like, figure out how much to give myself. So I wasn't really paying too much attention to my sugars. I had lost some weight from being in the hospital, and I was really proud of myself, and I was doing good. And my blood pressure was getting a bit normal, right? Because it takes a little bit of time when they change your pills. It takes a little bit of time for the meds to kick in. So I was drinking water like over a gallon a day. Over a gallon, like constantly drinking it like I couldn't get enough water. I have never had that feeling in my life. I was so thirsty. And I had went to my doctor for a checkup afterwards, and we were just kind of discussing things, and they did some blood work and a urine test. My urine test was insane. They called me to go right into the doctor's office because I was basically like peeing out sugar. That's why I was drinking so much water. If you don't know anything about diabetes, when your sugars are high, your body's trying to get rid of it and trying to flush out those sugars. And that's why you end up going to the bathroom a lot and why you're craving water. Okay? So I didn't pay attention to that because my sugars, I don't think they've ever been like that high. They were insane. My A1C was 10, and that's your blood glucose level, like without fasting. That's like it's like a comparison of your sugars over 3 months is your A1C, okay? And mine was 10, and that's like super high, dangerous, all that stuff. But my sugars were coming in at like over 30. So for Canadians, they want your sugars between 4 and 7. They don't want them to go over 10. I was like 30, okay? So it was super dangerous. I had to get insulin right away. I was scared to do anything. I was so scared that, oh my gosh, like, could I have a stroke, a heart attack, anything like that? Like, I was terrified again. So I had just gotten out of the hospital, to recap. My blood pressure was crazy. I get out. My sugars are insane. I was like... And it was a really rough time because I was dealing with grief from the loss of my dad. I was just so out of it. I was still so out of it too with the hospital, with being in the ICU. It was like, honestly, it was almost like I had PTSD from it. I was terrified to go back to the hospital. Like, what are they going to do? Is this okay? Is that okay? Am I doing this right? I was terrified I was going to have a heart attack or a stroke. If you've ever had anxiety or anything like that and you're going through this stuff, it was really scary and really hard. So I started to do the insulin, and then I started to get lows. And so I had to kind of we had to try to figure out what I was supposed to take, how much insulin I was supposed to take. And I am completely new at this. It was a lot. It was so overwhelming, very, very overwhelming. But I got it. My blood pressure right now is like 117/62, something like that. So my blood pressure is great. I am on meds still. I am still on medication, okay? But we have my blood pressure where we want it to be. So hopefully, if I keep losing weight, well, no, not if. when I keep losing weight, maybe I'll get off some of those pills. But the other thing is my sugars. I am now wear a sensor on my arm, as you can see there. Sorry for the people in the podcast that aren't watching this on YouTube. I have a sensor on my arm that monitors my sugars 24/7, and my sugars have never been better. I do take insulin 3 times a day. I do carb counting, so I know what my sugars, how much insulin I should take according to the carbs I'm eating each meal, and I take insulin at night. I have already had my insulin at nighttime lowered, which is great. So it's showing that I'm doing really, really good with my diabetes. So I'm very, very proud of myself. It truly was a wake-up call for me. I did allow myself to kind of get into a little bit of a depression again, and I'm still in that. So my eating hasn't been 100%, but my sugars have been awesome. My blood pressure is awesome. And now I'm focusing on trying to lose weight. I'm not going to do anything overwhelming. I'm just trying to calorie count, and I do the Weight Watchers program. So that's what I'm doing now. And I am just feeling so much better about it. I'm drinking a lot of water, not because my sugars are high, but because I want to. And I am just trying to do all of the healthy things for myself. So as much as that was so horrible, that time in the ICU, the time in the hospital, all of that, as horrible as that was, as scary as it was a total wake-up call for me and my health. I knew I had been avoiding my diabetes for way too long. I would dabble in it and I would oh, I'm doing so good. But I never really tracked my sugars. I never really did the stuff that I was supposed to do. And I never really went to a diabetic nurse to find out everything that I should do, which I do now. I go to a diabetic nurse. She calls me every 2 weeks and we follow up. And I just am doing really great. So I just wanted to share this part of my journey with you because it was scary. And I don't want anyone to ever have to go through anything like that. As I guess it was a blessing in disguise because it made me get my life together. It made me get my health and be like, listen, we're doing this. We're doing it this time. And my diabetes and my blood pressure has never been better. And losing weight, which I'm working on now, is just going to be the icing on the cake, icing on the sugar-free cake. And it's going to be just so good because it's just going to draw everything together. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because I know there are people out there that are struggling with diabetes, high blood pressure, lots of other problems that involve health. That involve weight and all of that stuff. And you can't avoid it forever. I'm telling you right now, you can't avoid it forever. Face it. There is so much support for you. Comment on here. I will support you. I'm telling you right now, this is a community, and it's a wellness community. Follow me on Bloom with Alicia. I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram. I share my daily stories every day, my daily life, recipes, just a bunch of fun things. So follow me on there and I will be your support. I will help you in any ways that I can. So just know that you're not alone. I see you, and stop avoiding these health issues because they're not going to go away and they're going to come back a lot worse than you expect. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening. This is something that I just wanted to share with you guys. If you are going through this, comment below. If you know someone that is going through this, share. If you think this podcast could maybe help them, share it with them, and let's all support each other. So thank you again for being here and listening. This is Alicia from Love, Loss, and Other Things, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay tuned for more episodes every Monday. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.